In the dense folds of the Appalachian Mountains, nestled between forgotten logging trails and time-worn cabins, sat the town of Dunlow. It was the kind of place that never made maps and was kept alive by moonshine, old grudges, and tales that crawled through generations like ivy over gravestones. Among the oldest tales was that of Amos Cutter, a logger with broad shoulders, a sharper tongue, and a reputation for cruelty. He was the kind of man who laughed too loud at funerals and kicked dogs when no one was looking. Folks said he once beat a mule to death for balking at a river crossing. But it wasn't until he crossed Granny Sallow that his sins came calling. Granny Sallow wasn't anyone's real grandmother. She was an old mountain woman who lived alone in a shack that smelled of lavender and dead things. She knew every herb, charm, and ghost story within 100 miles, and she knew when someone needed punishing. One day, Amos stumbled upon her while hunting. Drunk and boastful, he mocked her, calling her a swamp witch and pretending to cast spells in jest. He knocked over her stew pot and kicked her charm sticks into the fire. She stared up at him, eyes black as coal. "You want to act like a beast?" she whispered. "Then a beast you shall be!" That night, screams echoed through the woods. Some claimed it was a wild boar in heat. Others said they saw Amos's silhouette under a red moon, stumbling on two legs but squealing like a hog. By morning, Amos Cutter was gone. All that remained were bloody footprints shaped like hooves and an axe buried in a tree stump, its handle chewed. Every year since, on the same autumn night, Dunlow saw someone vanish. Always one person, always without a trace, and always preceded by the unholy sound of a pig's squeal, distant but unmistakable. It had been 31 years since Amos disappeared, and the tale had twisted into something children whispered at sleepovers and teens dared each other to mock. One such teen was Elijah Granger, a lanky senior with a sharp wit and a braver tongue than was wise. Elijah didn't believe in curses. His world was science, facts, and his camera. He ran a local YouTube channel where he explored haunted Appalachia, debunking ghost stories. So when the harvest moon rolled around and Dunlow grew quiet with fear, Elijah saw an opportunity for content. The pig-headed man, he smirked in his intro video, was just a legend born of too much whiskey and not enough streetlights. Tonight, we prove it. He set up his camera in the woods near the old Cutter property where Amos once lived. The house was now a blackened shell, consumed by ivy and rot. As the sun fell and mist crept in, Elijah filmed himself telling the story, mocking the superstition with every breath. At precisely midnight, the woods went silent. No crickets, no owls, nothing. Then came the squeal, not from a pig, but something wrong, twisted, too loud, too human. Elijah turned. His night vision camera flickered. Trees swayed without wind. Then something heavy thudded behind him. A figure, 8 feet tall, snout like a hog's, body like a man, cloven hooves, bloody axe. Elijah ran. The video cut to static. Sheriff Amos Granger, yes, named after the Cutter family out of dark tradition, stood over his nephew's last known location. Elijah's camera had been found, its lens cracked,
left beside deep prints in the mud, prints shaped like split hooves, far too large for any animal. The town gathered that night at the church, as they did every year after a disappearance. Most prayed, some cried, but all remembered. Sheriff Granger stood silent. His face was pale. "It's back," muttered old Jenny Cates. "Like every year, the pig man takes what he's owed." Sheriff Granger didn't believe in fairy tales, but he believed in patterns. 31 years, 31 disappearances, always on the same night. He'd dismissed it too long. Granger returned to the woods. He followed the tracks deeper, into a part of the mountain locals avoided. The air grew colder. Time bent. Trees leaned inward like eavesdropping gossips. At the heart of the thicket, he found a circle of bones. And in the center, the cutter axe, still bloody. When he turned around, he saw a shape vanish into the fog. That night, he didn't sleep.
Granger knew he needed answers from someone who remembered. That meant going to see the last living soul who had witnessed the original curse. Granny Sallow's granddaughter, Mavis, now in her 80s and blind in both eyes. She lived alone in a crooked cabin on Blackroot Ridge. Mavis didn't like visitors, but when she heard the sheriff's voice, she nodded him in. "He walks again, doesn't he?" she rasped. "Yes, and he took my nephew." She poured him tea that smelled like moss and honey. The curse wasn't just anger. It was a binding. Granny didn't turn him into a monster. She showed him what he was. The axe does the rest. How do I stop him? You can't, not while the mountain remembers. Unless, she leaned closer, unless someone takes his place. Granger stood up, heart racing. You mean a sacrifice? No, a willing bearer of the burden. One who accepts the rage, the shape, the guilt. Only then can the curse sleep. Granger left her cabin shaken. That night, the squeal came again, closer this time, and another went missing. The next harvest moon rose red as rust. Sheriff Granger returned to the woods, not with a gun, but with the cutter axe. He found the circle of bones and waited. When the pig-headed man came, he didn't run. It stepped from the mist, breath steaming, eyes empty, but its body trembled. "Amos Cutter," the sheriff whispered. "You've taken enough. It ends now." The creature lunged. They struggled. Blood flew. Trees splintered. The sheriff managed to drive the axe deep into the monster's chest. But instead of dying, it grinned. Not death. Transfer. And then it dissolved into smoke. Granger collapsed. When he awoke, he was alone. The axe lay beside him, but his hands were hoofs. He screamed, but it came out as a squeal. The curse had found its new bearer. Dunlow went 1 year without a disappearance. People smiled more. Kids played outside at night. But high in the hills, a new shadow lurked. And in the quiet hours before dawn, if you listened hard enough, you could hear the soft rustle of hoofs and a man trying not to squeal.